Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, which hopefully will give you some information on our MSc Fire Safety Engineering course here at Ulster. My name's Karen Boyce and I'm the course director for the course, so I will be able to answer any questions you have now or at a later date. I'll be very happy to help you with anything that we don't cover in this presentation today. Before I start to talk about the MSc Fire Safety Engineering, I just want to mention some of the general benefits of studying a Masters here at Ulster. Obviously, you're aware of this course, but there are many other excellent courses at Ulster, including conversion courses if you want to change career. Having a Masters, obviously, I'm sure you already know, will give you a competitive edge in employment. It will also, I hope, if it's something you're interested in, you've chosen to do, give you some personal fulfilment. Here at Ulster, and certainly in our course and other courses, you will be taught by experts. This is Masters level, and you will be taught by people who are experts in the field and often doing research in the field as well. We like to think that we provide a very supportive study environment. Your Masters will lead you not just to get an academic qualification, but obviously in the future maybe to become to get professional qualifications and help towards those. And we at Ulster here again pride ourselves with the great links that we have with industry and employers, and indeed in our course I'll talk a little bit more about that as we work our way through. There are also quantifiable benefits to having a master's degree. On average, a postgraduate earns £7,000 per year compared to a graduate. A postgraduates are 21% more likely to be in high-skilled employment. So not only do you have all of the benefits that we've just mentioned in the previous slide there, but it also puts some extra money in your pocket as well. So you have are listening to this webinar or attending this webinar because you're interested in the Masters in Fire Safety Engineering, and I presume you already know what that is, but just in case you don't really know, I guess Fire Safety Engineering came into being back in the 1980s when we had performance-based design, performance-based regulations, and it was a fact that many buildings, not always complex or multifunctional as the slide says there, but many buildings couldn't conform to traditional design guides, and of course that didn't necessarily mean that they couldn't be built safely. So fire engineering and fire engineers in particular will work with design teams in engineering consultancies to produce very unique fire safety design solutions for a particular building, and by not having to follow the traditional guidance, that means that we can facilitate innovation. That might be in products, or it might be in systems, it might be in terms of the internal architecture, but without compromising safety. And again, you will probably be aware that that's used mainly in the design of buildings, but also in infrastructure and transportation. And just on the right there, you see some examples of buildings that have been designed by fire engineering. The middle one there is the Odyssey Arena in Belfast, and there's many other buildings locally and of course internationally that have been designed by engineers and couldn't have been built otherwise. So why fire engineering at Ulster? Well, we are an established programme here at Ulster, and we have been running the course here for, since 1990, and we have an international reputation. There's only a relatively small number of master's courses worldwide, and we are certainly up there in terms of our reputation, in terms of the employability of our students and the desire that industry has for students of this course. We also are, I mentioned earlier about you were being taught by experts. Everyone that teaches in the fire safety engineering course is research active, so you will be taught by an internationally recognised team of different types of researchers, of scientists, of engineers, of psychologists, and of course we try and feed that research that we're doing and that others are doing into the programme, so that what you're getting is new and exciting. We also have very unique laboratories here at Ulster. We got an infrastructure grant back in 2001 of £5.5 million, and we have excellent laboratory facilities here which are probably unique in the university sector globally. And as a student on the course, you will get to utilise some of the smaller labs in our lab facility here in one of the modules in the fire laboratory module well. And you also may get the opportunity to use some of the larger scale equipment in your dissertation if you were to follow down that path of doing some experimental work. So there are some unique aspects, I guess, of our course here that hopefully will make that experience that you have here all the better. Another really important aspect of our course is that it is accredited as further learning for CEng by the Institution of Fire Engineers, by the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers, and by the Energy Institute. What essentially that means is that if you have an undergraduate degree that's accredited by those bodies or another engineering council body, then if you come and do our master's course, that can then fulfil the requirements, the academic requirements for chartered engineer in the future. Of course, you will also have to have other experience and there'll be other requirements, but you will fulfill the academic requirements for that if that's something that is in your mind for your future career planning. The Masters here at Ulster offers flexible study levels. It's actually a linked postgraduate diploma master's course, and as students on the course you would come in at postgraduate level and you would undertake 8 top modules, and I'll explain what those are in just a moment. And you can go away with just the postgraduate diploma, or you can transfer then over to the Masters, having successfully completed those, undertake a dissertation, and then you would receive a master's degree rather than a diploma. So you don't have to do the full masters. There are 2 modes of study, full-time and part-time, and we can move between these if necessarily, if your circumstances change on the duration of the course. The full-time course is 1 year, from September. We'll be starting now 2021 and 20th of September, and that will run till for 50 weeks, basically until the beginning to mid-September of 2022. And the part-time programme is also an option for you, particularly obviously if you are and importantly if you are in full-time employment. The part-time option would be the only option for you really, and that would be over 3 academic years. So that would be 2 semesters, the semester from September to January and semester from February to March, in 3 academic years, the first 2 years being taught and then the 3rd year being spent in your dissertation. This is the structure of our course. Again, depending on whether you're a full-time student or a part-time student, that would vary. But if I could talk about a full-time student, first of all, in the first semester you would do modules in heat transfer and thermofluids and fire dynamics. That's obviously understanding all the science behind fire development, fire growth and development. You would also undertake a module in structural fire engineering, which is understanding how structures perform in fire. In the second semester you would then undertake fire engineering laboratories, which is a practical module really, where you're in the labs and you're really getting the practical experience of doing experimental work that helps feed into your dissertations if you choose to go down that route. And it also gives you a better understanding of the theories that we've been developing and learning here in semester 1 with heat transfer and thermofluids and fire dynamics. You would also undertake in the second semester a module in active fire protection systems, which is looking at the design of smoke control systems, sprinkler systems, and also looking at other aspects like emergency lighting and detection and alarm. And then you would have an optional module of either fire modelling, which is computational fluid dynamics modelling, or industrial fire safety, which is very much focused on industrial fires and design for such. There are 2 what we call long thin modules that run across both semesters. One, first of them, there, people in fire, is one that I teach, and that is understanding how people behave in fire, because of course the whole human aspect is something that's really important to consider when we're designing a building for fire safety. And then the fire safety engineering design module, which again runs through the 2 semesters. And so in the first semester, what you would be doing would be understanding what is fire safety engineering design, understanding some of the current design guidance. We would have lots of input from fire safety engineers who would come in and talk to you about design problems and issues and how they're solved. And you will undertake a simple design project in that first semester. And then in the second semester, what you would be doing is working in groups to undertake a much more complex, or not, fire safety engineering design for a much more complex building. So those are the 8 top modules. If you're a part-time student or intending doing the course part-time, then you would do the top ones there along this row here in year 1. You can see it there in first year, and in year 2, you actually, there isn't a little box on the side there, but in year 2 you would do the other 4 modules that I've just been talking about, of course, with the fire modelling and industrial fire safety just being one of those because that's an option. And then in the 3rd semester for full-time students, you would do your dissertation, or in the 3rd year for part-time students, then that's when you would complete your dissertation. And that is essentially undertaking research in an area of your choice. We as staff would suggest some titles to you which you can choose from, and they might align to some of the research that we are undertaking, but you may choose to do something yourself, and you would choose to do that. You'd undertake the research under guidance. Obviously you'd be allocated a supervisor, and then you would write your dissertation and do an oral presentation at the finale of that. The learning and teaching environment here at Ulster obviously was very different last year. This year we're hoping to be back on campus. That is the plan right now, but that will be kept under review, of course. But wherever we are, you will have a variation in your learning. We call it blended learning. So you will be supported by material that we will put online, and of course other lectures and things could be live online at various points in time. But we will have lectures where we will be going through a lot of information, and that will be but they will involve discussion with yourselves. They're relatively small classes, so they're not like you're just sitting in class and listening to me or someone else talk. You will have tutorials where we'll be doing some practical examples of calculations that you'll be doing in class. We'll have seminars in the People and Fire module in particular. I may get you to read some literature, then we'll come back and we'll present and we'll discuss it. You will be doing laboratory work, which I just talked about in the previous slide, when you're in the labs in the 2nd semester. And again, something I've already mentioned is that you will work on different design projects in the design module. And over on the right there, you can see a couple of photographs. In the middle, you can see the students. Actually, that's from academic year 2019-20. That was the last year that we were in on campus, and they're sitting around the table having a discussion about around a set of plans about the design strategy for a building, and that's with Barry McAllister, who's a director in RPS Consulting Engineers. And I mentioned earlier that we do work very closely with engineering consultancies, and in fact they always come in and they will set the design project for you, so that you're working on a real live project. It's not a made-up building. And there on the right you can see just a photograph of, again, the same students working at one of the laboratory experiments in the lab. We also from time to time undertake site visits, and we also go, again, we weren't able to do it in the last academic year, I'm hoping that this year very much so, a training session at the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service. And I have some photographs of that on the next slide here. So at the Fire and Rescue Service, they have facilitated over the last number of years a 2-day training session for us. So on the first day, what we have tended to do was to have some lectures on from a firefighting perspective, on how they would go about fighting a fire, and what's important to them in terms of the design of a building. And we'd also do breathing apparatus training. And then on the second day, we would go to their facilities, their own training facilities, and they would induce backdraft, as you will see there, in a container. So you'll see there the students again with all of their protective gear on, and we would very much get to see hands-on backdraft being induced in a container. And then if you wish, it's not compulsory, of course, but having had the training, then our students are able to actually go into another container which has a fire in it at one end of the container, and we get an opportunity to go in and really experience from a small scale perspective, I guess, what it's like to be in a fire and fighting that fire. And the whole intention of this part of the course and this training sessions that we undertake is that for you as engineers to really try and understand from a firefighting perspective what is required in a building. It's very easy to sit down and look at a set of plans, a set of drawings, and be completely removed from the job that the firefighters have to do. So it's to help you gain a better appreciation of that and hopefully make better decisions in the future with respect to that. I want to mention something about future careers, and certainly I would say that the fire engineering sector, the fire engineering industry at the minute is buoyant and has been for some time, and there is huge demand for fire engineers. I know that there's lots of movement within the sector, with people being attracted to other more senior positions in different places, and there are many opportunities to travel if that's what you so desire. So not only are there jobs here in Northern Ireland, but there are jobs in the UK, and there are many jobs appearing and always have been in Australia and New Zealand, because they very much have performance-based design, and also because of the the industry in the Middle East, there are many opportunities there as well. And graduates of our course are currently, of course, working both locally and nationally and internationally in different engineering consultancies. And I've just given a list of some of the consultancies there that they are currently working in. Most of our students would go out into industry and work as a fire engineer in a fire engineering consultancy, a dedicated fire engineering consultancy, or in a larger engineering consultancy that covers wider engineering aspects. But our students in the past have also gone into work in the insurance industry. Quite a number of them are working in research and testing laboratories. Some are working in oil and gas, in transportation, and some are working as fire officers, for example, in hospitals and healthcare. So there are many diverse careers that can open up for you if you were to undertake and be successful in the Master's Fire Safety Engineering course here at Ulster. This is a photograph here of our students. Again, it was the students from 2019-20, and you can see that it's a relatively small group. I think there were 15 that year. Maybe they're not all just shown in that photograph. But among those students, we had 4 Indian students, 4 students from Saudi Arabia. We had a girl from Oman. We had a Chinese student, and of course we had students from Ireland as well. So we are a very diverse staff in terms of our nationalities here at Ulster and in Fire. At Fire Cert, and we also have a very diverse set of students, so that's really nice because we learn from each other. We learn from each other in the cultures and the different perspectives and the different experiences that we each have. We also teach the full-time students and the part-time students alongside one another. So if you're a full-time student, there will be also part-time students in your class and vice versa. And again, that's really interesting because at the class discussions, then there's lots of different perspectives that are brought forward. And again, we learn from each other. I guess you're interested in the entry requirements for the course, and the entry requirements for this master's course are an honours degree in a related science or engineering discipline. And by related science or engineering discipline, I'm quite prepared to accept quite a broad range of subjects, but certainly those subjects would include civil engineers, mechanical engineers, building services engineers, construction engineers. One of the really important things is that you do have a strong mathematical background, so we do ask for at least A level or grade C, or have had engineering maths at degree level. If you don't have quite those entry requirements, or you're unsure, you can certainly email me and ask, and I'll be happy to advise as to whether you would meet the expectations or not. And if English isn't your first language, then we also need evidence of English language capability as IELTS 2.6. And again, if you are an international student, there will be more information of that on our international admissions website. To apply for the Masters in Fire Safety Engineering, you apply. The easiest way actually is just to go to our main website, ulster.ac.uk, and just go into the little box and do a search, the course search Fire Safety Engineering, and you will see the courses coming up. You can choose whether it's part-time or full-time that you wish to apply for, and there's a little green button, I think, just on the left-hand side that will just say apply here, and that's how you start the application process. There isn't any official closing date. Applications are rolling, so if it's 2021 you're interested in, there's no official closing date, but obviously the course will be starting on the 20th of September. And we will be doing induction in the week prior to that, and so if you were to get your application in and for it to be considered and approved and get all the documentation, whatever that you need in place, you would need to be thinking about doing that within the next few weeks. If it is for 2022-23, then there's no rush right now, and you can put your application in whenever you so desire. Our course places are limited in the sense of being limited by our labs, but at the moment, if you make an application, there should absolutely be a place for you for this intake. Please make sure you fully complete the application. It's a fairly straightforward application. We're particularly interested in your qualifications, and particularly your maths qualifications, if those are in doubt at all, and also why you're interested in the course. But if there's any doubt, please contact me, and I'll be happy to advise on that. Fees and finance, I guess, is also that we will be interested in. The course fee for the full-time masters at the minute for 2021-22, I think maybe I was given the wrong years just right now. Maybe I got confused, but obviously we're talking about 21-22 right now, is £6,270. That can be paid over a number of instalments or some flexible payment options that will be available to you. If you happen to be an alumni of Ulster, then you get a 10% discount. There's also a 5% discount for upfront payment. I'm not sure whether you can have both of those discounts, but that's something again that finance would be able to advise on. And there are some loans available obviously for masters, and again our finance website should give you more information on that if you wish to look at that. I did mention earlier that our intention is to be here on campus in September, but you will appreciate that we need to operate safely during this pandemic. We have had a lot of experience of teaching online in the recent year, and we can be responsive, and we will have to be responsive to any changes. As a third bullet point there, just notes, we do hope and we expect to welcome students back to campus in September 2021, but of course that will be subject to government and public health guidance in place at that time, and you can keep up to date with the situation by visiting the webpage there on the slide, ulster.ac.uk/coronavirus. I hope that I have given you a good overview of the course, and I hope that maybe some of the questions that you had have been answered. But if you have any questions on the programme, my email address and my telephone number are given there on the slide, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm working at home right now, but if you ring the telephone number, it will come through directly to my computer, so that's not a problem at all. But probably an easier way to make sure you get me and make sure that I don't forget to get back to you is to just email me at that address. So thank you very much for your time today. I will just say goodbye now, and please, if there's any questions at all, I'm happy to take them now, but if you think about something when you leave or afterwards, just please come back and email me at the address, which I'll just leave on the screen right here now in case you missed it. Thank you.